good?
All good.
All good, all good. Hey guys, Daniel here and
Mick, hello.
we're doing some pedal videos and some squeaky chair videos just to take you through some really great things about pedals and some questions you might have. One of the questions I get asked all the time, Mick,
is what is so good about tube screamers and why does everybody use them?
very good question. Okay, what's so good about them? They're only good if you really like them, which is debatable. Why does everyone like them? I would have to go out on a limb and say mainly because it was the pedal that Stevie Ray Vaughan used. I know. And he did amazing things with that pedal. He could have got that sound out of anything, basically. The Tube Screamer has what we like to call a mid-hump. So if you look at the EQ range on a pedal, the mid-frequencies in a Tube Screamer are pushed, which is great for some amps, not so great for others.
As we're about to find out,
Let me show you why. Okay, so we're going to use two amplifiers here. I've got an AC30 here, which sounds like this. Okay, and that has got a mid scoop to it, bottom end, top end, but run like this, the way I've set it up. It's not completely flat. But then I have this lovely Lazy J20, which has a mid hump to it. Great sound. Right. Now, if I put the Tube Screamer on top of a mid-humped amplifier, you get this. So here's just the amp by itself. Put the Tube Screamer on top of that. You get this mid-hump on top of mid-hump. So all the mid-frequencies are really accentuated. But if I do the same thing with the Vox, so the Tube Screamer on top, as opposed to,
it's totally different.
totally different.
And just in case anyone's still wondering why we're making this video, it's because everyone always thinks that a Tube Screamer is the right pedal for them, or they don't. Fact is, it makes a massive difference which amp you're plugged into, as Daniel's just demonstrated.
Absolutely. Not only that though, let's hear it with the Strat, because the Telecaster also has a very pronounced mid-range all of its own. But if we swap that around now, and I'm going to turn you on, so let's go through the AC30 by itself. And now with the Tube Screamer. Okay, now go through the Lazy J. Now put the Tube Screamer on top of that. So yeah, that makes a huge difference.
Go between the two just for a sec.
But now, just the amps on their own. Yeah. So.
Okay, so that's really interesting. There's a couple of other pedals on the board here. What have we got there?
So we have Keeley Modded Blues Driver. Great sounding pedal. It's interesting talking to Robert Keeley about this. He just tweaks a few of the major components just to make them a bit high quality. The tonality of the pedal doesn't change that much when he mods it. And then of course I have the fabled Analogman King of Tone. I know. So basically, the difference between the Blues Driver and the Tube Screamer. So again, if we hear the Tube Screamer into the Lazy J, we get this. Sounds like a bit of an AM radio. But if I swap that over for the Blues Driver, it's great. Here's the difference. The Blues Driver doesn't have that mid-range hump. It's got a lot more bottom end, and it's and the top, a lot more top end. But it doesn't have that boost in the mid-range. However, if I now change between the Lazy J and the AC30, all that mid-range that we were hearing there sounds really beautiful. We're sort of losing it in this amplifier. Okay?
So what you're saying is, for something with a mid-range hump
yes.
in the sound of the amp itself, you're better off choosing a pedal that's got perhaps less pronounced.
Less pronounced, but there is still a slight EQ difference in the mid-range, but it is less pronounced.
It's not totally accentuated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, if we look at the King of Tone, so again we go from the Fox now to the King of Tone. It sits somewhere between the two.
That to me sounds like it's got a much more even EQ than either of the other two pedals.
Absolutely.
So if you were going to draw a graph, you would say the Tube Screamer's got kind of a very pronounced hump.
Yep.
The Blues Driver slightly less of one, and seems to have more bottom end to me as well.
Has more bottom end, definitely.
Whereas the King of Tone just seems to be more right across the board.
Absolutely, and which is why I can use the King of Tone with any amplifier. So again, this is the AC30 with the King of Tone. Sounds great, but with the Lazy J, King of Tone, it's just more of the same. So that's the beauty of the King of Tone, which is why this is massive waiting list for them, because you can dial it into basically any amplifier. The Tube Screamer, the Blues Driver, a little bit more amp specific, especially dependent on the way that you use the amplifier. If you crank the amplifier and you want to go for a solo sound, you're not going to step on the Blues Driver, because that bottom end the Blues Driver gives you, is you're going to get lost in that. Whereas the Tube Screamer, that massive mid hump, that's why Stevie Ray Vaughan used it. His amps were already dialed.
Yeah.
You know, it was just giving him that boost through that massive wall of sound that he had, just to cut through, sort of like a treble booster might do.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's a good point, because if you're playing rhythm in a band and you've got quite a distorted sound and you want to just sit in there so the vocals can still sound prominent, so the other instruments can still sound prominent, and you're just wanting to sit there, then a slightly less mid-pronounced drive is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Right? Whereas if you want to punch out with a lead sound through a busy mix, that's probably why you see so many Tube Screamers used as boosters after overdrive pedals.
Well, I would say it depends on your use of the overdrive pedal. If you're using the overdrive pedal for your core tone, the way we're doing here, then try the Tube Screamer into it. Because what that will do, it will compress that EQ, it will compress the overdrive even more and just push that mid-range through the overdrive. If you use it after it, it's like a total EQ difference.
Yeah.
Either or works. For me personally, it sounds a bit more organic and natural if I'm boosting into the overdrive pedal.
Sounds like another video for another day.
I think so.
Okay, so let's do the obvious thing, and let's start with the AC30.
Yep.
And we're just going to play the Tube Screamer, the Blues Driver, and the King of Tone, so you can just hear the basic differences between the pedals.
Okay.
Nice. Strat?
Now let's listen to that in the J20.